Hey everyone, this is Cheshire from Cheshire Plays Games, and today, tonight, wherever you might be, whatever time it might be, I thought I would go and touch on one of my favourite M19 cards, which is Guttersnipe. So we're going to go and have a look at deck tech for Guttersnipe. Stay right there, we'll start this in just a second. Okay, so I thought I might look at something pretty unique considering one of my favourite cards is back at standard. Now, it's no secret that I love to counter all the things, and it's certainly no secret that I love to burn all the things as well. So you know what? Why not mix up both of these concepts into a single, horribly oppressive deck, right? I mean, you know, one where we can counter all the things, burn all the faces, kill all the creatures, just oppressive, gross, you are kind of deck. So enter the Tekken. I mean Guttersnipe, obviously. So the aim of this deck, before we even start, is this is basically like a counter burn tempo-ish kind of deck. I mean, we've got lots of counter spells and some direct damage that can't be countered, which is great, and it's all centered around Guttersnipe. It doesn't need Guttersnipe to win, but Guttersnipe certainly speeds up the actual victory you're going to get here. So, first up, the creatures. Now, just remember, in saying that, because this is more of a tempo control deck with some counter spells, we're not running a whole mess of creatures. In fact, we're running 4 Guttersnipe. So it's 2 colors, 1 red mana. We get a 2/2 Goblin Shaman. Whenever we play an instant or sorcery, he gets to deal 2 damage to all opponents. Luckily for us, we're playing a heap of counter magic and burn, a little bit of bounce, to capitalize off Guttersnipe. This is pretty much going to be the grossest way we can do this, the grossest way possible. Next up, we have 3 Burrell, Chief of Compliance. Now, this may actually just be a win more card. Generally speaking, you've got a critical mass of cheap instants and sorceries anyway, but for 1 colorless and 1 blue mana, Burrell is a solid 1/3 blocker with the added ability of making one of our instants and sorceries when we play them cheaper, and our counter magic gain a looting effect, which is fantastic because it allows us to dig through our deck a little bit faster. Easy to put our opponent on that kind of burn notice. Next, we have planeswalkers. Okay, look, I know there isn't a really solid planeswalker for this kind of specific deck, right? I mean, there's that one sweet old lady that everyone seems to hate. You know, everyone just hates her. Why? Because it's, I guess, just straight red. It's hard to cast, it's hard to splash. But that's right, we're playing her. For 2 colors and 3 red mana, we have 3 copies of Jaya Ballad, who enters the battlefield with 5 loyalty. When Jay hits play, we can then either tick her up for a single loyalty and add 3 red mana to our mana pool to be used on instants and sorceries. Pretty cool, allows us to kind of, I guess, semi-ramp if we need to. We can also add 1 loyalty to discard up to 3 cards and draw that many cards. Eventually we'll be able to get the emblem out, which allows us to replay our instants and sorceries from the graveyard. It essentially is an emblem that gives us flashback. By then, you should have already killed your opponent, but it's nice to have a good old just-in-case backup plan, especially with some of the cool cheap burn in this deck. Speaking of, and I say it all the time, but burn, baby, burn. That's the next topic we're going to be talking about. We're playing 4 Lightning Strike, so that's 1 colorless and 1 red mana for 3 damage to any target at instant speed. It's pretty cool. Add in the 2 extra damage from a Guttersnipe if we've got 1, or maybe more, which would be great. And it just makes it so much better. Add in the reduction of 1 mana from Burrell, and that's just a lightning bolt that can do 5 damage straight to your opponent's face. You can't turn that up. That is amazing value. Next, we have 4 copies of Shock, because Shock's going to be reprinted in M19. In fact, I guess this deck is more M19 than it is anything else. I mean, it's going to probably survive most of the rotation as well, which is actually pretty good for us. So we're playing Shock because 1 red for 2 damage to any target means that we can kill off some early 2 toughness threats, such as like some of the small humans builds that are kind of in the back, in the little tier 2s. They're getting up there. And we can still get 2 damage from Guttersnipe as well to our opponent's face at instant speed. Or we can just aim it all at your opponent for an extra 4. I mean, again, this is just putting your opponent on a pretty serious clock if they let Guttersnipe go. Now onto one of the best of our damage death dealers, and that is Banefire. 1 red mana and X deal X damage to target creature or player. Now, it doesn't unfortunately do damage to the planeswalkers, but that's cool because this has a bonus round. If X is 5 or more, it can't be countered by spells or abilities, and the damage can't be prevented. This is napalm. With all these cheap and efficient spells, how are we going to keep a hand long enough to kill? We need to draw some spells. So, we've got 4 copies of Anticipate because they should help us dig in 3 cards deep and netting us the card we need for just 1 colorless and a blue mana as an instant. So, it's great because it allows us to dig into the deck a little bit more. We have 2 copies of Blink of an Eye. For 1 colorless and 1 blue, we can bounce a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If we kick it for an extra blue and a colorless, we also get to draw a card, which is actually pretty good. This could even be used in a pinch to save your own Guttersnipe from certain dooms, so do remember the fact that you can cast it on your own permanents if need be. Even a Jade Ballad, you can cast it on almost anything, really. Not to mention a single copy of Pool from Tomorrow. Now, I love this card. It allows us to just sink mana in when we don't want it. We can just draw heaps of cards on the late game and the end of our opponent's turn. It means we untap with a fresh hand. It can do so much goodness for us. Next up, we need a way to counter what our opponent has planned for us, rather than just trying to burn things out on the board. So, straight into the split card, Commit to Memory. For 3 colorless and 1 blue mana, you can play this card from your hand as an instant to either put a threat on the board into your opponent's deck second from the top, or use it as a pseudo counterspell to do the same with a spell if they cast a spell. Later on, you can cast Memory as a sorcery for 4 colorless and 2 blue mana to shuffle everyone's graveyards back into their decks and draw a fresh hand of 7 cards. For the counterspell suite, considering that now we're kind of leading into the counterspells anyway, we're playing a group that you should already be aware of. This is the Beatles of counterspells in Standard: 2 Negate, 2 Essence Scatter, 2 Disallow, and 2 Syncopate. Join our band to bring the noise, or I guess the silence actually, because you'd be countering the spell, and so, yeah. Anyway. We have a little bit of protection in the form of Dive Down, because Guttersnipe is actually pretty fragile, as we've already discussed. Give him a little bit of a bigger butt for a turn when he's, somebody's trying to burn him out. Just might be the ticket to saving him. Also, though, this does give hexproof, so that's really nothing to sneeze at. Finally, we have the land suite. Now, there's nothing really special here at the moment. I mean, this deck is a concept that should be pretty good to play, so I need to tweak the lands more, but we've got 6 islands, 6 mountains, 4 Spire Bluff Canal, 4 Sulphur Falls, and 2 Field of Ruin. Well, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this rather gross way to punish your opponent, Friday Night Magic. I hope that you're looking forward to M19 and that you've enjoyed this Guttersnipe deck, because you are. It's pretty gross. As it is, counterburn, control, all of these things throughout time have just been gross. What have you been brewing for your Jank Brews? Let me know down below, as well as hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget we have a community event coming up, so you'll be able to check out heaps of different content from different content creators, so keep an eye on @CheshirePlays over on the Twitter, and keep cracking packs, not for the value, but for draft. I'm Cheshire. Have fun.